Burkina Faso government denies army takeover after barracks gunfire. The government denies the army seized control of the country after exchanges of gunfire at multiple army barracks. Burkina Faso's government says the army has not seized control of the country after exchanges of gunfire took place at multiple army barracks, including 2 in the capital, Ouagadougou, amid growing frustration with the government's failure to prevent attacks by armed groups. Heavy arms fire on Sunday at Sangoul-la-Mizana camp, which houses the Army's general staff and a prison whose inmates include soldiers involved in a failed 2015 coup attempt, began as early as 5 a.m., 5 o'clock GMT, a Reuters news agency reporter said. The reporter later saw soldiers firing into the air in the camp. A witness also reported gunfire at a military camp in Kaya, about 100 kilometers, 62 miles, north of Ouagadougou. Shots were heard at another military camp, Babisi, in the south of the capital, and at an airbase near the airport, military sources said. Burkina Faso's government confirmed gunfire at some military camps but denied reports on social media that the army had seized power. Speaking on national television on Sunday, Defense Minister General Badlami Simpor denied rumors that President Rochmark Kabore had been detained, adding the motive behind the gunfire was still unclear. The head of state has not been detained, no institution of the country has been threatened, Simpor said. For now, we don't know their motives or what they are demanding. We are trying to get in contact with them, he said, adding that calm had returned to some of the barracks. The authorities later declared an overnight curfew from 8 p.m., 2000 hours GMT, until further notice, and the Education Ministry said schools would be closed on Monday and Tuesday across the country. Protesters siding with the mutinous soldiers had set fire to the headquarters of the ruling party in the capital earlier on Sunday, according to an AFP journalist at the scene. The blaze destroyed the ground floor of the building of the People's Movement for Progress, MPP, party, where protesters also vandalized the facade before being dispersed by police firing tear gas, the reporters said. The unrest came a day after clashes between police and demonstrators during protests against the authorities' failure to stem violence ravaging the West African country. It also follows the arrest earlier this month of numerous soldiers over a suspected plot to destabilize institutions in the country, which has a long history of coups. A soldier leading the mutiny in one barracks told Al Jazeera that they had 6 demands for the government. One is hiring more troops to fight on the front lines against groups linked to ISIL and Al-Qaeda, Al Jazeera's Nicholas Yerk, reporting from Dakar, Senegal, said. They also demand better care for the wounded and the families of those who lost their loved ones, as well as better wages, training and forming of permanent battalions to deal with threats, Huck said. The mutineers' demands fall short of asking President Kabore to resign, but in their latest statement they say that if their demands are not met, then they will ask for Kabore to step down, Huck added. He said that the internet had been cut across the country. Journalist Henry Wilkins, reporting from Ouagadougou, told Al Jazeera on Sunday evening that he did not think the government's claims that the mutiny was under control were accurate. It doesn't appear to be turning into a full-scale coup. I think mutiny is certainly the best word to use to describe what's happening at the moment. The mutiny is still ongoing, however, he said. And we are now hearing there could be plans to continue the mutiny into a second day, and possibly even merging the mutiny with protesters who tried to assemble in the center of Ouagadougou on Sunday, but were dispersed by police using tear gas. Alex Vines, director of the Africa program at Chatham House, told Al Jazeera that a mutiny that has ingredients of a coup is exactly the way to look at this. We are now talking about a region which is seeing a swing back in favor of coups, he said, after an attempted coup in Niger and successful coups in Mali and Guinea in recent years. We have had 5 successful or attempted coups in the region, if you count them all together this decade, so Burkina Faso is fitting into that pattern. Mounting attacks. On Saturday, police had used tear gas to disperse protesters in rallies across the country, arresting dozens. The authorities earlier in the week said they were banning the protests for security reasons. Security sources reported that 2 soldiers were killed after their vehicle drove over a crude bomb in the north on Saturday. Groups linked to Al-Qaeda and ISIS have plagued the landlocked Sahel nation since 2015, killing hundreds. Attacks on civilians and soldiers have become increasingly frequent, and are largely concentrated in the country's north and east. The violence led by armed groups in recent years has forced approximately 1.5 million people to flee their homes, the National Emergency Agency says, and many have settled in the region around Kaya. Al Jazeera's Haq said the anger towards the president among the sections of the military has reportedly been building for months. In November, there was an attack in the north of the country in Inata, where 20 soldiers were killed. There was a national outcry when it turned out that those soldiers had gone 2 weeks without food rations and had to hunt for food, he said. That's when they were attacked by groups linked to Al-Qaeda. On November 27, hundreds demonstrated against the failure of President Gbagbo to quell the violence, sparking clashes with security forces that wounded dozens. Vines said it was significant that while the head of the military has appeared on television on Sunday, the president has not. It is very telling that President Gbagbo hasn't been visible at the moment. It's also very telling that this mutiny seems to have started in a military base where there is also a prison where some of the key military figures that were involved in the 2015 coup attempt are incarcerated. This is a real reminder of the fragility of events in Burkina Faso at the moment, and also comes at a time when Western support for the region is being reduced.